Well, my name is Tom Wright. I think from an architectural perspective, they probably, a lot of our clients still visit Dubai and they still see the Burj Al Arab, and that is a sort of key draw. And so probably it's the most notable building we've designed. But now we've got some increasingly interesting buildings going up throughout the world that I think are going to also be very memorable. The Burj Al Arab, I think, was an unusual brief because it was going to try to put an emerging country onto the map, or at least attempt to. And I think it's probably done that job. It certainly has become a building you see consistently around the world, in different media. I quite often, I'm going to change the question, I quite often get asked what I think good architecture is. What makes a good piece of architecture. And as a business, we like the idea that if your building makes people smile, and if it makes them feel a little bit better about their day, and it makes their life, their journey into work, just feel that much better by going, oh, that's really quite nice. You've achieved something. You've actually made a piece of architecture. And so I think that's our definition of what a good design is. Yeah, so the building in Vancouver sits on a slight rise. It's on the highest part. So as it's the same height as the other buildings, one or two buildings around, it just is a couple of meters taller. But actually, I don't think that the height of a building is that relevant in real terms. I think it's more how interesting the building is. Because if you do the tallest building in the world, within no time at all, it's not going to be the tallest. Every city in the world has different drivers, and every city has different demands. It has different amount of wealth, and the people in the city have more or less money. So every project we do is totally different. And then of course every site we deal with is totally different as well. So every building is a challenge, and that's what's interesting about the job. Probably one of the best things we do as an architect is we listen quite a lot to our clients, and we try not to design anything until we fully understand what they want, and then once we've understood that, then the next job is to make something interesting of what they want within the constraints that you're given. But the secret of architecture is listening. It's not having preconceived ideas. If you've got preconceived ideas for a building and then you walk onto a site that it doesn't really fit on and you carry on trying to put that building on the site, it's never going to be successful. So you have to listen first and then draw after. In today's world, what should we be doing? This is going to be the environmental answer. I think that architecture from now on, every building anybody designs has to be very environmentally conscious. I know every architect says this these days, but it really is very important that our city buildings start to use less energy than they've ever used before. And that will change the way architects think about buildings, or it already has done. Nearly every architect is designing environmental buildings now. It's the way the cities will go. And in fact, the worry with cities like Bangkok isn't so much the new buildings that are coming along. It's what you do with the old building stock that is very inefficient. And how do you make those buildings, how do you upgrade them to the point where they actually start to reduce their energy demand? And that is the biggest challenge for cities. Yeah, you've got to do it because you can build 5 new buildings which are super zero energy, but the other million buildings are burning energy at a huge rate, and they're finding this in Brussels, where they have this new policy of energy passive house policy, and the new buildings are fantastic, but the old buildings, they're actually now taking the facades off and keeping the concrete frame and recladding the buildings in environment, in energy efficient facades. So they're starting to upgrade all the old buildings, but that is the problem. And then when you get to really historic buildings, they're almost impossible to make efficient. The base of passive house is making sure the buildings are orientated in the right direction so that the sunlight doesn't pour in and heat the inside up, or in some climates you do get the sunlight coming in at certain times of the day. So orientation is a major part. After that, it's to do with insulating the buildings very highly so that the heat loss in and out isn't massive. And then once you've done that, you have a recovery system, so you recover either the cold inside the apartment or the heat inside the apartment, and you put that back in with the fresh air in a very efficient way. How much of that we can do in Bangkok, I'm not sure at the moment, but I'd certainly like to get to a point where our buildings are at least 50% more efficient than the last buildings that have been done. It's another regional question, isn't it? In the next 5 years, I really can't answer that question because everywhere, every country, every city, every client has a different aspiration. And there doesn't appear to be, apart from the environmental trend, there doesn't appear to be one particular trend that everybody's asking for. I think the idea that you can control your apartment from the mobile phone. When you're away from it, you can switch dinner on, or you can control the temperature in the apartment, or whether the lights are on when you come home, or let the cat out, or whatever. I think that is being asked for more and more, and the technology is becoming cheaper and cheaper to do that, to implement it. So I think that sort of technologically advanced apartment is going to become more efficient. I also think that when you've got very small spaces, it's innovative ways of changing what your room is. So is it a bedroom or is it a living room? And how can you change it from one to the other without having to pack your bed away, and which is usually what happens. To pack your bed away, you have to take all of the duvets off and you have to put them in a cupboard, and the pillows, then you have to fold it up. But that process is kind of time consuming. And so you tend to, after a while, just leave the bed out in the apartment. So are there innovative ways where you can get rid of the bed?